time also identifying those maps. The first map is going to be Dragon's Dance.
I just wish that in the future to identify the map, we just start in like the corner, and we're not actually allowed to start until like 70% of quick check.
Mapper could do that to us. He could actually just remove the overlay, zoom in. We could have that.
Well, let's get this quarterfinal started. In the bottom right-hand side, he is representing Alpha X, and he is looking to cause upset here. Looking for his semi-final appearance. This is RagnaroK.
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, the blue Zerg player, the Finnish phenom on his new team, Basilisk. He is Serral. I don't know about you, Wardy, but when I was meeting a bunch of people yesterday, I met a lot of Serral fans out there. There are a lot of you guys out there.
How do you identify a Serral fan?
I think I asked them who they were rooting for. Makes it a little bit easier.
I see.
Yeah. You know, I look for the intelligent-looking people because you know what? I think I'm also consider myself a Serral fan, and I think he is looking pretty gosh darn strong. But this is, again, we've talked about it a lot before. This is going to be an important victory for him to get and to prove that he is, in fact, still looking pretty solid despite the group stages.
Yeah, the group stages were a shaky start. Specifically, the ZVZ did not look great for him, which is making this kind of a worrying match. But like I say, said it once, said it probably twice, maybe 3 times now. He looked so good going into yesterday's game, so that was a big one. We've got the Basilisk signs in the crowd. We've got the Serral fans in the crowd. We've got Rotty's #1 fan in the crowd. Wow. I thought that was me, but apparently not.
No, man. You've been downgraded. Because you know what? You're not over there hanging out with Roddy right now.
You're right. I am not hanging out with Roddy.
Can you really be that big of a fan then?
Maybe not, Fear Dragon. Maybe not. This is a very standard opening. Just to start things off here. Hatch, gas, pool, everyone's at the same timings. There's a slightly faster drone on the way currently for RagnaroK. It's a very minor thing, but that's basically just where we stand. Here in the start of game #1, ZVC has a lot of different points at which it can go for that 180 into aggression. And so you've always got to be on your toes because it could be 4 minutes, you start up a bunch of Lings and you start kind of forcing a bit of a Ling Bane engage, or maybe 5.5, you go Roach Ling or something. So all the way throughout this early game, we're just waiting for that one time where somebody diverges away from what the other is doing, breaks the mirror of this matchup, and is able to then, you know, give us something to really talk about.
No, absolutely. I think the 2 things that are worth mentioning, which is that Serral, again, as Pig was kind of saying before, is a little bit prone to be a bit paranoid about that kind of early aggression coming his way. And RagnaroK has actually been going for a lot of these kind of 14 pools, Pig was also telling me as well. So it's something that we're going to be keeping an eye out for with how Serral maybe tries to show a little bit of extra respect to what RagnaroK could be throwing at him. So far, it has been, as exactly Wardy was saying, pretty standard openings. We got mirrored builds in terms of Baneling Nest timings, the 3rd base is coming down, the Ling counts, everything looking like they're all totally aligned with each other.
Yeah, I think Serral made 2 more drones where RagnaroK made like 2 more sets of Zerglings, and we are going to see now the biggest surge of Zerglings here, so it is going to be Serral to become the aggressor. I like it because against Delazy yesterday, he looked good being the aggressor, and it's so easy to apply pressure in ZVZ without being fully committed, with the ability to kind of build up behind it, and that's often what this Ling Bane phase is. Let's see what RagnaroK does against this. Let's see how prepared he will be. As the first Lings come across the map, and RagnaroK will get ready to morph his first couple of Banes. Main goal here, of course, defend that 3rd base.
Yep, can't just rely on defending the choke point at the natural. The Queens are going to be making their way over to the 3rd base for now. Lings for Serral, maybe surprising RagnaroK in terms of their numbers for a moment, as he does have to back off for a little bit. The Queens getting surrounded, but the Banelings finish morphing. They all double detonate, and now that means that the Lings have free access to the Queen.
This is really bad right now for RagnaroK. He's lost 1 Queen, the other one is not injecting, so he's missing so much production, which he needs to have right here. He is fortunate Serral didn't continue with a ton more units, because this could have been bad, but it's still not exactly pretty. 1 Baneling already set to go. That Baneling of RagnaroK's not going to get a finish here, and I think Serral might just be able to monster mode his way through this first game. Going to be a big detonation. No, the drone split away, and Serral will try and carve out as much as possible. He should have 2 more Banelings still arriving. Here they are. What can he do? do with these. The Queen gets rid of one, the other will go down. It's not going to be too major, but Serral has carved a lead out of this early game scenario.
5 workers going down, nothing to sneeze at, as it is absolutely going to make a difference when the economies are this early on. It's still going to be an impactful difference. Not to mention, as you were saying, Wardy, the Queen's going down. It delays a lot of RagnaroK's production. The third base for RagnaroK was not able to do almost anything during this time. In the meanwhile, RagnaroK sends his lings across the map trying to get a scout, sees that he doesn't really have many opportunities.
Carapace from Serral, missiles from RagnaroK. He just wants to go purely into roaches. Serral more likely to play that more aggressive roach ling timing here. Carapace affects the roaches and the lings. The lings in front of roaches do a lot because it means that your own roaches aren't taking damage, so it's generally very good for you. Beautiful micro, those lings get on top of the base. He miscalculated! Low HP Banelings will still get cleaned up, but he does lose a few more lings. That was almost perfect for that Bane going in to finish off. Just one more hit on each.
Those health regeneration ticks, man, they are unpredictable. But Serral managed to take out quite a few lings over here. Going to be able to snag a couple of drones as well. More Banelings coming in to reinforce her. RagnaroK are going to send Serral back for a bit. But look at the supply, Wardy. It is 82 to 57. It's been ling and Baneling skirmishes back and forth, but Serral has still a big army lead.
Well, it's because he just started up his round of roaches, and like mentioned, he's hitting his Carapace time, and he is going to go with this ling roach. And, you know, RagnaroK's building his own roaches, but he didn't have the gas bank that Serral had. He's still not mining as much gas as Serral, and it's all because of how this early game has panned out. He just cannot afford enough roaches. So A, you're on less roaches, and B, you're not going to have the ling count to protect your roaches. This attack should be heavily favored for Serral. RagnaroK needs to cancel the lair right now. He just did it. He needs as many units as possible. Honestly, probably some spine crawlers. He just can't afford everything he realistically needs. He will try and buy time with the counterattack, which is nice, but Serral is still moving across the map.
Yeah, Serral narrowly dodging a situation where those lings could have gotten past that wall and at the natural and into the main base. It does seem like Serral is going to be arriving at RagnaroK's side of the map very shortly. These Banelings going to be causing some problems for Serral, making it harder to defend. The Queen is going to go down, but both the Banelings have been taken care of, and Serral has more than enough to defend and also offend on the other side of the map.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because missiles against Carapace, roach on roach is better for the missile player, but Serral will soon have these lings showing up, but does he lose too many roaches before then? He's never really meant to be losing his roach count here. Here finally comes some of the lings. The counterattacks of RagnaroK have done enough to throw Serral off and to really disrupt his plans. Serral says, yeah, this isn't working out. Missile upgrade, let's get that started. Let's go into my own lair. He's not really behind on tech. He did enough to at least reset RagnaroK, but this was a situation where Serral thought, I can win, and he's not been able to close it out.
Really great decision making there from RagnaroK. When you're trying to be the defender, it requires more units than your opponent has, because you need to shut things down while not losing workers. So it really did force Serral to leave quite a few of his lings back at home, and he really wasn't able to engage exactly how you were expecting him to.
Yeah, it was actually really a smart play from RagnaroK. It's probably one of the only things he could do to make that defense look as easy as it did, as he gets a few drones here with those Banelings. And this is the interesting part too. Serral now has all of these lings, which are not very useful for Fear Dragon. You know, they're good in the earlier stages, and they're still going to be good for counterattacking, but against a defensive RagnaroK right now, they're kind of dead weight.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to find uses for them while these players are still just on the 3-base setup, just because a natural is pretty easy to just plug up with a handful of units, and then you leave your army around the 3rd base and you're pretty much locked down. These lings should not be able to get damage done. Maybe once a 4th base or something gets established, you're going to start to see these players get a bit more spread out, but RagnaroK is not thinking about a 4th base at the moment. He's thinking about moving across the map, and Serral should have caught wind of this by now.
Yeah, this is where these lings obviously do become valuable because they can counterattack, but it is going to be army supply he doesn't have here. So as these roaches approach, let's see if Serral can have +1 missiles. It's not there just yet, and Serral isn't a concave, so he's going to push this back. This is really bad for RagnaroK, because he's going to get caught. Serral with the surround, and RagnaroK's going to get corrosive piled potentially out of this game as his supply disappears.
And there it is. GG. Serral takes the first game of this best of 5, silencing some of the doubters out there, saying, no, I got a lockdown on the ZVZ.
I gotta give credit to RagnaroK. I thought he was dead 3 or 4 minutes earlier. But then he did kind of, he kind of just went. I think he thought maybe Serral's teching up, but he was also teching up. He built the lair and everything. Weird situation, and then RagnaroK feeling like maybe I can go a little bit, but yeah, the lings, which, it's interesting because he knew the lings were out there, and then he just didn't really do enough with them. Like, he didn't do enough about them. Like, they counterattacked, and Serral's like, oh, but you're moving across. So he brought them back, and RagnaroK just didn't have an answer for that. So, interesting stuff. Serral obviously looking good. Just the very early game really set the tone for this one and got us off in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point as well. It's how do you deal with those Lings when you know they're on the other side of the map? Because clearly getting the surround there was a very, very large factor in Serral being able to completely shut down and lock down the W in that game. It would have been a lot more questionable if RagnaroK had been able to get back home, if he's on home turf, if he has the reinforcements coming in a lot faster, he has queens being added in, and even just, you know, a few of his own units there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because Serral still ends up taking that first game, and we are going to be heading into a map number 2 with Serral leading up the series 1-0.
Absolutely, we are. We're going to be heading into Royal Blood here. And again, we already saw straight away in that last game, just attempts to be aggressive, attempts to take the initiative. I expect that from both these players in this series, which can lead to some weirder scenarios. Expecting more of the same as we head on into our map number 2. In the top right-hand side, he's going to be down 1 game and looking to power up and bring it back from Alpha X. This is RagnaroK.
And down to the bottom left-hand side of the map, the blue Zerg player from Basilisk sitting up 1-0. He is Serral. Poor RagnaroK, man. We showed the player intro for RagnaroK, and then we immediately cut to a Serral cheerful.
We need one RagnaroK sign in the crowd, please.
Yeah, can we?
If you want to guarantee your way on camera,
please someone make a RagnaroK sign, because this guy is actually quite an amazing player. He is a lot of fun to watch, and he has been able to show some really cool aggressive styles, especially in some of those group stage matches and everything. So I'm still waiting to see when RagnaroK is going to be able to put a little bit more of his own pressure, because that last game, Serral's kind of started the flow of things. Serral's the one that got aggressive first with the Lings. He had that Roach transition and everything getting on up as well.
Yeah, no, Serral just took control early, and that's one of the big things he did against Elazer yesterday as well. He controlled the games from the very early kind of start, and he said, you know, Elazer, I know you don't like to build an Evo chamber, and you like to do this thing, you know, a little bit weird here and there. So, yeah, Serral versus Rain all they want, okay. You guys are evil. You guys want ZVZ? Ooh.
Yeah, I love it. Where every single time we cut back to the crowd, it's just more Serral signs. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of Serral fans out there, though.
Yes, there really are. I mean, it's very easy to be a fan of Serral, right?
Yeah. It's easy to cheer for a former champion and potentially a back-to-back champion,
That
for sure.
actually reminds me, speaking of Serral fans, Ravi, did you wish good luck to Serral today?
I did not.
You did not? You didn't see him?
There is apparently a curse that every time I wish a player good luck, they end up immediately bombing out of the event. This is actually, I attribute this to many North American players bombing out of events.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just talked to all the North Americans, and unfortunately they're not being able to hold up too well.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to PayPal me money to not wish their favorite players good luck, just, you know, hit me up.
Well, this is once again going to be very similar to start things off here. This is not going to be anything too wild early. We are moving towards the third hatchery. Like we saw last game, we kind of got a bit aggressive as Serral. That could be the case here. He could maybe sit back a little bit. Last game, they both went Banelin Nest. There is a world where you can build, you know, past the Banelin Nest, and you just kind of be a bit more offensive with Lings, and you get Roaches up behind it, and you have a Ling Roach attack in that regard. So, again, so many different pathways that ZVZ can branch off into, as we are going to see Serral immediately at Banelin Nest. The faster it is, generally, I always feel the safer it is, right? You're not going to be in worry, you know, any sort of concern. For the most part, this is just super standard, and once again, that's why we see it on both sides of the map.
Yeah. Whenever I see kind of safer play, such as a slightly faster Banelin Nest or something like that, I always think back to, oh, you know, that really, really old statistic about Game 2 being one of the most common games for a player to cheese in a best of 5 or best of 7 or even a best of 3. So don't hate the idea of having a 1-0 lead and Serral kind of just playing a little bit safer and kind of getting into his groove, because he did look solid as the game was going on as well. But curious if RagnaroK is going to feel differently, if he's going to feel like he has to be the one to set the pacing of the series.
Yeah, but as well, that's just sort of how RagnaroK likes to play. He likes to be the one that kind of initializes. He likes to be the one that says, hey, play my game a little bit. That's where RagnaroK's been always great. And he's definitely stepped up in the more standard games as well, and that's been, you know, a big part of why he got so much better over the last year. Yeah. Because he's been able to be better in the more standard situations. But in a situation like this, you're down a game, maybe you do want to kind of lean back into that sort of like, hey, you know, let's kind of go back to where I'm most comfortable as well. He is going to go straight into the +1 missiles, while Serral's just building the Roach Roar and 2 more gases, so 2 very different ways of getting to a Roach style. And once again, Serral says, I like Carapace, so this is very similar to the last game, just we haven't had the Ling Bane aggression do a lot for Serral in the first few moments.
Yeah, those Carapace upgrades usually are an indicator that someone wants to get aggressive because, as you were saying, the melee or the missile attack upgrades usually are the preferred upgrade for the longer term. The Carapace upgrades are really effective because they don't just help your roaches, they also help, say, the Lings in helping survive against your opponent's roaches, even if they have +1 missile attack. So, curious to see if Serral is thinking to get aggressive yet again. He's still firing up a handful of drones here and there, but roaches are starting to turn on out.
Yeah, the roach count is building. Like you say, there is a couple more drones in production. I really feel like, they have to be the last couple, right? If he's going to do something with his Carapace timing. So, on we go. Overlords will finish, and then we'll see exactly what he builds into. The thing is, RagnaroK is building roaches of his own. I'm just not sure the Carapace should be able to be enough for Serral to break through here, but he's got no lair, so he is committed. Like, he needs to do something with this because he's going to be heavily behind in the tech, roach speed. Potential for a Spire is going to be there for RagnaroK if he holds on here. Serral's going to be behind if damage isn't done.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more Overlords getting started up as well. I believe that Serral's just going to be churning out non-stop roaches or something from here on out. Just because, well, here come a couple of these gas geysers for Serral, but it's the Spire that I think you're taking a look at there, Rorty.
Yeah, because obviously for RagnaroK, it feels as though if he just builds units, he should be okay. Get towards roach speed, hold on with roaches. The Spire is resources which do not do anything for him right now, and Serral's attack is definitely going to be ready to go much before that Spire is set. So, yeah, just a little unfortunate because obviously, again, it could be used to help him out against this attack as Serral is still waiting though, man. He's not going yet. His Carapace is about to finish. Obviously, the longer we wait, the closer that Spire gets to being a part of this game. As Serral is now going to come through, and now RagnaroK sees this for the first time. So now, what do we do? Do we cancel the Spire? He starts up a Spine Crawler. If you can hold until the Spire finishes, the Mutas can then play cleanup. Ooh. But he's got to hold initially, and he decides, no, cancel the Spire, and let's go from there. Again, using his counterattack to try and buy time, but what a save on the Queen.
Oh, that's going to be a big save, and those Lings are starting to get dealt with. No drones really going down, and Serral is not being halted with his attack whatsoever. Comes in with these roaches, +1 missile attack versus +1 Carapace. Bailing's also coming on in.
Yeah, Balin's a very supply efficient, so when it's similar supplies here, it means it's actually better for Serral. He's going to go drone hunting, and he's already got a big advantage on the road camp, but will it be enough? Because from the top side, RagnaroK's getting his reinforcements here. Spine Crawlers are finishing, starting to join the fight. We've only killed 5 drones, and Serral is going to get a few more, but he's also starting to tech up. He's realizing this isn't going to end the game, and is his tech going to be in time? Maybe, maybe not, but he is going to get held off here, and he's still down on drones, and RagnaroK takes a lead in game 2.
RagnaroK with a magnificent hold there should now be able to take advantage of things. We do see a drone.
There's a canceled Spire.
Yeah, the Spire ended up getting canceled. So that is going to be a saving grace there for Serral. A pretty big one because otherwise he would just be losing complete map control. It would be a very awkward situation where Serral has lost both his army supply, his worker supply, and also the tech lead there. But now at least RagnaroK is still going to be able to plant down his Spire and still be able to hold on to those other leads to try and see what he can make do with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those scenarios where it's like, if you don't cancel the Spire and you hold, you're in a way better position. But if you don't cancel the Spire, you might just die.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So he was all or nothing. He's still ahead. He's just not maybe as ahead as he could have been. That's fine. The important thing is you lived here. And he's actually going to go across the match as we're watching. Well, RagnaroK's first-person view, he's going to jump on these roaches. Morphin Ravagers as Serral still on the way. He is going to come in, though, with the surround. You can see just how blindsided RagnaroK is. And these Lings are going to help Serral out to turn this around and stay in this. RagnaroK misjudging this attack and is going to get pushed back. Serral will bounce into a supply lead off this. And that is going to be RagnaroK, well, just not finding what he wanted. However, if he continues to scare Serral into Roach Ling production, that Spire might go unanswered.
I mean, I felt like that entire move there was just deja vu from game number 1.
Yeah.
It was literally RagnaroK pushing across the map when there were still a ton of Lings around, and Serral suddenly getting a massive surround, getting a beautiful engagement, and suddenly climbing back ahead in supply.
I feel like Serral's just going to go, because I think he knows, like, hey, why is there no Ravagers or anything? Why are you coming, like, where's your gas? And I think he knows there's very likely something like a Spire on the way. He just kept on building units, and I feel like he's almost ready to just wait for roach speed and just commit. The problem is the Mutas are going to be out in time.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be too late. Now, the Mutas being out doesn't necessarily mean Serral can't do any attack, because Mutas attack and they won't be killed, but they also are going to be dealing damage to roaches very, very slowly. Mutas have been revealed, and we're going to see if Serral feels like he has to just hunker down now, or if he's going to try and get aggressive.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He actually saw the Mutilas with an Overseer, and he did nothing different. He didn't even start got spores. His whole plan here is to just force these mutas back onto his roaches. The problem with this is that RagnaroK has enough roaches to buy time himself, and that's going to make it very difficult for Serral to do meaningful damage because he wants to get on top of mineral lines. You can see these mutas going Ravager hunting. Serral will come forward, and this is going to be it. He's got a Spine Crawler or two to go through as well, remember, as he goes for these roaches, but it's more than these roaches. He needs economic damage at the very least.
Great micro there from RagnaroK, not allowing those lings to fully surround his roaches. He gets all the way pinned back here, gets the benefit of that Spine Crawler. The mutas continuing to work away at the roach count. Does Serral have enough? He is starting to be at even-ish supply, and even though it does seem like he's breaking through, remember, more reinforcements are going to be coming out here from the north side for RagnaroK. Serral continuing to find bits and pieces of damage. He needs more reinforcements. Some more lings do arrive. Is it enough?
Well, the big thing is he's buying time. He's going into Hydras behind this, so he'll finally have an answer to the Mutalisks once they come across the map. So there is a big positive here for Serral at the end of all of this. He might still be down on drones, but he's given himself at least a chance to fight with the Mutas. If he could have wiped out a mineral line there in full, brilliant. What he did was probably bare minimum to still be alive in this game.
Hydras have been revealed now, and RagnaroK knows he has to be a bit more careful with that Mutalisk control. They're not just going to have free reign completely over the map, but still going to be able to find little bits and pieces of damage there as the Hydras are still growing in numbers. And RagnaroK still knows that there's no easy way for Serral to move out onto the map freely. He knows that Serral has to respect the mutas, so going Overlord hunting is one thing, but also just expanding and taking additional bases, playing a little bit greedy behind this until you know Serral has enough to attack you is going to be a really good play for RagnaroK.
But I mean, Serral can't really attack until he has enough. It's exactly as you say, right? So yeah, it's the right move. You have the map control. You can play greedier. Serral doesn't even have Hydra speed, so moving on the map seemed extremely unlikely. Yeah, RagnaroK has the lead here in game number 2. The only thing he doesn't have going for him is he's playing against Serral. And Serral's pretty clutch, man. We've seen him in ridiculous ZVZ scenarios of the past, especially ones like this where he's likely the player that has to hunker down, play a bit slower, just maybe tech up a bit, and just try and slowly grab his way back into this game. RagnaroK is just building a ton of roaches, though. He wants to make a killing move. He says, hey, if you're building so many Hydras, are they really going to withstand a massive Roach Ravager attack? It's going to be a very good question. We'll be finding out very shortly because RagnaroK's more or less max. He doesn't have much else to wait on. I'm not even convinced he'll go for +1 carapace before attacking because he's already got +2 missiles versus 1-1. I feel like it's good enough for him to just get moving.
That's true. It's going to be a good question of whether or not it's going to be beneficial for him to have waited for +1 carapace, but he's going to go regardless, like you were saying, Wardy. Muta's going to try and actually just buy a little bit of time and also distract Serral a bit, force him to spend some actions on the other side as the engagement breaks out, but Corrosive Vials are going to be landing on a handful of the Hydras. Is this going to be a good enough fight for RagnaroK, though?
No, because the Mutas aren't doing anything. They're just sat off to the side, being absolutely AFK, and they are going to go pick off an Overseer. RagnaroK, you're losing the main fight, buddy. You need everything you can get. He's in full-on retreat mode, and maybe Serral can't chase him down, but it's a fight that keeps Serral in this, and maybe a chance for Serral to take a look at a 4th base now.
Oh, such a rough fight there for RagnaroK. Drops a lot of supply during the fight, and now that whole timing that we were talking about of Serral needing to build up to the correct number of Hydras so that he can safely move out onto the map to feel confident about it, he's hit it. He can move across the map. He can get aggressive now.
Serral's all in though, right? Because he's still not looking for a 4th base. He still doesn't believe he can do enough. I think against 5 mutas maybe he could, but he seems to think he just has to keep spamming units and going into this position. He feels like he has to attack in. He's not starting +2 missiles. So Serral is looking to end this game. I'm still not convinced you can do that. It's very different being the defender like he was in the last fight to being the aggressor pushing up these ramps and into RagnaroK. He's going to spread out. It's going to be a massive arc from Serral. He's going to come from 2 sides, but let's see if RagnaroK can hold on.
Serral's coming in from the left and the right, and RagnaroK is holding that high ground. He's dodging Corrosive Vials left and right. Serral going to be doing the same with a lot of his Hydras, but eats some Corrosive Vials on the left-hand side. He's starting to have his Roach lines thinned out, and RagnaroK has too much. GG takes the second game and ties up the series 1-1.
Yeah, Serral was dancing with those files, but it was just not going to be enough. And like we said, he was all in. He never looked towards a 4th base. I do feel like he had an option after that last fight to put a 4th base down. Yes, there's mutas, but it's not an overwhelming amount of mutas. You know, when you talk about mutas controlling a game, we're thinking more than 10. And we never got past that number of 10, and there was a couple dying off. I know it's not great for Serral, and it doesn't feel like a good situation, so he obviously feels like he has to go, but maybe that was an alternative option that he could have actually just slowed things down a little bit here. So Interesting game, though. I think Serral was really kind of hard stuck on the idea of, hey, I'm going to like go with this Roach Link Carapace attack. And it just never felt like it. Like, it felt like it might work because the Spire went down, but then he didn't hit when Carapace finished. It hit a little bit after that. RagnaroK had time to cancel the Spire, build Spines. It just didn't feel like that attack had really everything it needed to really hit at its strongest point from Serral initially.
You could definitely get the sense that for both players, like you were talking about with Serral, not really hitting the exact crisp, precise timing that we know he's all capable, we all know he's capable of, but also even RagnaroK kind of doing those counterattacks at kind of odd times, getting surrounded by the Lings, and just kind of finding himself in awkward situations where he was giving Serral opportunities to come back in the game. It's not even necessarily to say that I think that they're doing massive, massive misplays, but it was very clear that both of those players was having a hard time reading the exact state of the game.
It's scrappy, it's messy, that's what ZVZ is often all about. It's all tied up, and we're heading to a Game 3 here in the quarterfinals of the World Championship at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Grezvan is our next map, and this map has truly delivered us like so many great games throughout this tournament. It has been the standout map of the event. It's been the most picked map of the event, I believe, as well. Very excited to get this one underway as we head into Game 3.
And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be starting up in the top left-hand side of the map. On top of the red Zerg player from Alpha X, he is RagnaroK.
In the bottom right-hand corner, we have got the reigning world champion representing his new team, Basilisk. Give it up, make some noise for Serral!
I'm with you, Wardy. This map has been fantastic this entire event. I mean, it's been so much fun to see so many long-term macro games. I feel like break out on this map, a lot of the split map situations. How do you feel about it for ZVZ, though?
Not really sure. I feel like it's kind of become one of these maps where a lot of standard stuff works. It's big, but not like rushing across the map big. Like everywhere feels accessible, especially as you expand toward each other sometimes.
I want a 10 pool. Oh boy. Is that going to be a double extractor into spawning pool?
A double extractor spawning pool just for the fun. Or you kill 2 of your drones, man.
I feel like that's
There's a RagnaroK sign!
RagnaroK sign! We see you! Let's go.
We did that for you, Dragon.
I feel like they did that, but
they did that. We wanted it, though.
We did want it, though. That is very true. Yeah, looks like pretty normal openings, by the way, from everything on both of these players' sides. But you were kind of talking about Grezvan and ZVZ. Yeah. In my mind, when I think of Grezvan, I think of kind of longer-term macro games. I feel like it's hard for a map to really guarantee that in ZVZ.
Yes. It could possibly happen because I think, you know, if you get to that stage, the problem isn't with the map, it's with ZVZ. It's just hard to get both players at a point where one of them feels like they can transition to lurkers, because it's not like you're just like, oh guys, hey, by the way, it's 11 minutes, let's build our lurker dens now, right? Someone has to feel like they can get to lurkers, and then the other player has to feel like they need to go to lurkers instead of killing the other guy going to lurkers.
Dilemma.
Exactly, right? So it's kind of an awkward situation. That's why we see ZVZ not really developing there a lot of the time. A lot of the time, if it goes very late, it's actually like mutas forcing someone to defend. Like if Serral had taken a 4th base and played defense last game, for example, and RagnaroK kept building mutas, then you could maybe see a later game, split map scenario. It's interesting, and I feel like RagnaroK's not going to really want to let the game go there, and there's a lot you can do to then not let the game go there. So I do still then, you know, turn to the other side of Grezvan. It's not like the longest of maps, right? You can attack across. It does have a lot of space and attack paths, especially to maybe send run-bys on. That's something that RagnaroK's loved so far too. So basically, Fear Dragon, what I'm trying to summarize is that this map could really see a bit of anything from the ZVZ.
That's going to be a beautiful aspect of ZVZ, or a harrowing aspect, especially if you're a Zerg player on the ladder. But
I can't believe Serral didn't put his queen on the 3rd base to match the split-screen observer view. That's very rude, Serral.
Why didn't anyone inform Serral that we were doing that? Can we
Serral is 258. We're meant to have a queen for the split screen. Hello?
Can we get a pause to inform Serral and make sure he's following his production crews? Yeah. Well, we do have our usual stuff, the Baneley Nest, the hatcheries are going to be finishing on up, but I'm really curious how you felt about the idea of RagnaroK going for those mutas. I know that Serral decided to get pedal to the metal, aggression and stuff with the Carapace upgrade and everything. But I feel like mutas have still been a pretty strong thing to go for in ZVZ, and RagnaroK, I think, does a really good job with them as well.
Yeah, he really wanted to get to those mutas. It was definitely something he wanted to explore in that game. Not just, you know, initially, and then he canceled the Spire, but then straight away after he's like, oh, let's still go for the Spire again now that I've held on. So, yeah, mutas are fun, but they are volatile, right? If you do hit the timing a little bit more nicely, I do think you can die going mutas, and your scouting has to be absolutely spot on, because if you don't know you're being attacked and you don't have the preparation ready, if you're not ready to cancel that Spire, you can just die. And we saw that in the group stages with like a laser DRG, solar DRG, right? Where solar, like, you know, DRG canceled 100% Spire, but like a few seconds earlier could have made the difference and stuff. So yeah, mutas are very good once you get there and you're safely there, and they're great if you're ahead and you want to keep a lead going into a longer game. It just is a bit of a risk every time, especially when both these players are so good at reading when you are weak and when they can punish you.
I think it's really well put. And I do want to make a quick note that Serral, for once, the first time in this best-of-5 series, in game number 3, is going to be going for a missile attack upgrade, not a Carapace upgrade. And that is going to be a good sign that Serral is not looking to put pedal to the metal immediately. It's still possible, but it seems less likely than with the Carapace upgrade.
Yeah, it's the first time we've seen Serral do something different in this series, right? It's been Carapace 2 out of 2 games so far. Now here comes the bit of diversity from him. And he's just a bit behind on everything, right? He's down some drones, he's down on missile time, and he's down on the lair. So RagnaroK just having a little bit more efficient build to get to this point, and even going to be a little bit of the aggressor right now as these couple of Banelings try and come up. They'll not really find a chance to do too much. I mean, obviously hitting those Banes to cancel one, not the biggest of deals. I mean, minor fights, it's just the fact that that supply is really looking good for RagnaroK, and like I say, every way. He's on his spine, though. I think he's worried about what's coming his way.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be interesting because there are some roaches out there for Serral, and he was kind of doing that move out there, so maybe the Spinecrawler would have been helpful. It looks like Spinecrawler, I believe, is going to finish up. Yep.
Nope.
Oh, wow. Very last second cancel there.
He was just waiting for as long as possible to confirm, hey, you're not laying roaching me, right? Just double check. And immediately now he's like, oh, roach on roach? Hello. Back to my friend, the Spire. So
there we go.
He clearly knows how he wants to go about this, and Serral going to scout it almost immediately this time. That's a massive catch, and it's information he wasn't playing with last game.
I also love that the position for this is actually exactly Serral doing exactly what I was hoping he would do. Just send the Overseer to the top left, because it's going to be so easy to double check and confirm the Spire did not get canceled. There's no change in plans later on. That Overseer can sit there very, very safely and just check back in every so often.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, it's actually a great map for that. It's actually arguably a bad Spire position because of it, right? Because you are basically allowing him to freely scout you repeatedly. So it's one of those minor little adjustments and minor little kind of perfections. But yeah, that Spire maybe could have been somewhere else. Not to necessarily stop it being scouted first, but stopping the rescout on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hydroden on the way for Serral, so that is going to be his response. He does not want to try playing a Muta versus Muta with a belated, or sorry, a late Muta-list Spire himself. And Evo Chamber going to be actually researching, looks like Carapace upgrade. Doesn't seem like it's been scouted.
Yeah, just going to go double Evo's really going to just power up on kind of Roach Hydra. What RagnaroK is doing is he's completely ignoring the fact that he built a Spine and he's just spamming Roaches, maybe hoping to catch Serral building too many Hydras. I think the thing is, Serral's not going to build Hydras unless he sees Mutas. Instead, he's just going to keep building Roaches, which is the right call, because by building Hydras, he would put himself in trouble to this attack. Instead, I think he's going to be pretty well prepared. RagnaroK does run up here, a little bit of an army supply lead, but Serral has that defender's advantage. Let's see if it'll be enough for Serral as he tries to hold on. He's got his queens in this fight as well. Any bit of extra damage can go a long way as RagnaroK trying to dive on one side and sway this in his favor.
And RagnaroK actually seemed to make a bit of progress. Remember, he's also got some reinforcements that have been streaming across the map as they are going to be making a big appearance over here. Serral's starting to get overwhelmed. The overwhelming numbers are starting to compound and snowball further and further in RagnaroK's favor. So many of these roaches for RagnaroK are very low on hit points, though, and as more reinforcements pop out here for Serral, it seems like RagnaroK stopped reinforcing.
Yeah, but he's got Mutas, that's why, because he wasn't building roaches anymore. He's going for the Mutas, and now Serral's like, this is when you've built them. He had not built any of his Hydras yet. The Spore Crawlers were not built, he had a Hydra Den. He didn't think he'd need to worry about this. He's now sending his own roaches across the map, but RagnaroK is building his own roaches. It's a beautiful 1-2 punch from RagnaroK. It is is a top-tier move, and it is working beautifully in this game, putting him heavily ahead against Serral.
Does RagnaroK have enough roaches to sway the roaches back? It looks like yes, and now the mutas get free pickings, free killings here. This is a really unfortunate situation for Serral, as he knows he is just going to be bleeding out more and more roaches, as he was already down in army supply. Even the hydras are getting picked off as they're popping on out. Finally, a spore caller finishes to protect them, but what is there left to protect?
This game, I think, is over Fear Dragon, right? I mean, these mutas have so much control, and the follow-up is now Serral is trying to make hydras. RagnaroK's already rebuilt roaches, so he's going to come in and overwhelm in yet another way, and RagnaroK is just constantly a move ahead of Serral in this game. He was a little bit better on the initial build that gave him the ability to do this, and it's just been, like I say, Serral always trying to play from like a move behind.
Yeah, it really does feel like exactly that Serral is continuously just kind of one step behind his opponent. RagnaroK is already anticipating Serral's moves and making the extra steps to just anticipate and counter them. RagnaroK has such a stellar lead now, not only in income, not only in army supply, but I mean, he's very soon, if he wins this game, he's going to have a lead in the series as well.
Oh yeah, man, he is more or less a map away right now from being in the semifinals, because this one is very good for him. I mean, it doesn't matter how well you play from here as Serral, like, you just can't deal with the fact that you're behind in a bunch of units. He does have an upgrade lead, 2-1 against just +1, so that is something for Serral. He's got the hydras to dish out some damage, but he doesn't have his own corrosive vials to try and force his opponent to dodge around as much. He has one Ravager, and that's the issue. These hydras have to kite back. They're losing damaging time, and RagnaroK just has way too much. Here are the mutas just to say goodbye to you, Serral. In game 3, RagnaroK is in a 2-1 lead, and he is so close to the semifinals.
He can feel it, he can taste it. The further he will have ever made it at IEM Katowice. He's already made it further than I think anyone would have expected, including maybe even himself. But now he is on the verge of not even just making it to the, the semifinals. He would potentially be making it to the semifinals over the previous champion.
Yeah, I mean, taking down Serral is no easy feat, especially in the best of 5, where Serral has a lot of room to adapt. He still has to win one more game, and that won't be easy. But the way he played there, because he just got that little bit ahead early, he used that to his advantage, and then, like I say, Serral had the scout and the Spire. It was RagnaroK's trickery, not using the Spire, then choosing when to use the Spire when Serral was a little bit on the run. It was, again, just that knock-on effect of one thing to the other that allowed him to just take full advantage there. It was very cool.
Very, very tough spot now. Serral needs to bust out his A game. He needs to bust out his S game at this point, because it is down to the wire. It is going to be moving on to map number 4. He was talking about how he felt more comfortable, like you were saying, playing in a best of 5. Well, if this was a best of 3, it would have been over now. RagnaroK would have won. But because this is a best of 5, Serral has a little bit more leeway. This is the time to prove it. This is the time to prove that the best of 5 is going to be different for him and a different experience for him than the best of 3.
You know what it is as well? I feel like this is where I've got to just say, though, Serral is a clutch player. He's been down before. He will hold on. He will drag it all the way if he has to. He knows it's 5 maps, right? He says, you have to beat me in 3 of them. It's not guaranteed just yet as we get ourselves ready for map number 4. No breaks needed, as these two are ready to keep on ZVZing it up. RagnaroK leads over Serral in the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice this year.
Ancient Cistern going to be loading on up here. This is going to be do or die again for Jonas Satala. Can he pull it out, or is he going to be in some trouble? We are heading in. We're going to be starting down here, the bottom left-hand side of the map, on top of the red Zerg player, ready to slay a god. He is your reckoning. He is Alpha X's RagnaroK.
He is 12th, by the way. All right, in the top right-hand side, it's time to make some noise, because it might be your last chance if this 12 pool works against him. From Basilisk in the upper right, it's Serral! No drone call, surely, right?
No. That would be so scary. I haven't actually seen that for a bit now.
No. It's so microable against, and I just feel like Serral would be somewhat ready for it, even if it's not been popular lately. He goes 16 hatchery here. We'll get an extra drone, and we'll start to work his way towards everything else in this game number 4. The pool is going to finish. The Lings will be able to start. RagnaroK, are we sending a drone down to that low ground for a hatchery in the next few moments? This is where we're about to find out, Fear Dragon. It's not moving, man. The drones are coming.
270, 280. 300 minerals, still no
Drones
drone
are
hidden there.
coming. Okay, here's the first 3 drones. They're going to be the spine crawlers. The rest of the drones are going to get ready to back them up. And here we are. The drones are on the way. And RagnaroK wants to cheese his way into the semis.
Now you have to really pay attention. Where are the overlords? These are newer maps, so these players have had time to adjust to get used to where the overlord scouting patterns are. This overlord is not going to get a single whiff of these drones moving across the map for a bit. Finally, this next overlord is going to be able to catch wind of this, and Serral and RagnaroK both see each other.
Yeah, this is important for Serral. Gives him a little bit of mental heads up, and he's going to go for the wall off. This is big. You can't get the spine crawlers in a position where they're walled against the bottom side ledge, and they can't also be able to hit the low ground and the high ground same time. These spines up here are way easier to deny in this upcoming micro war. So Serral, it's an investment of money, but he's going to see that as a worthwhile one, as now he goes to buying time, and again, he'll get ready to fight those spines. So he's going to come forward with the drones. He catches the lings. A little bit of a surround. Now his own lings are coming, and Serral is going to go on the offensive with his defense.
He's target firing down the northmost spine crawler while the drones and the lings chase after Serral. First spine crawler has been canceled. Second spine crawler being worked on. It gets canceled as well. The third spine crawler is going to be the last remaining hope here as the queen pops on out. Serral is overwhelming RagnaroK. The spine crawler is going to go down. GG, Serral takes us to an ace match.
You can't do this against Serral. You know, he's too good at micro. He figured it out. He saw it. He has a response. We've not seen this for so long, and his response was pitch perfect. Because if those spines go up across that bottom ledge of the creep, the wall of the kind of high ground to low ground protects them. You can't surround them as easily. You can't guarantee the kills. That's where it gets really weird. And Serral, it's also that kind of time you buy, because by going all the way north to build the spines, 4 or 5 extra seconds of just before the spines are built, it gives you extra time, and that's everything you need in this scenario. Yeah, Serral just set it up perfectly. And was this pool actually on the bottom side as well? I didn't see, but like, it was part of the wall, no?
That part I actually missed. I don't actually know about that.
It's even crazier, because that would have been a preemptive play as well.
That would be pretty incredible, and it really just goes to show you how well thought out everything is here, how Serral is ready, how experienced he is with not only just past builds and everything, but in clutch situations, being in this spot. He knows how to get the W's. He knows how to get the wins when it really matters, when it really counts, and he prevents himself from elimination in these kind of events time and time again.
It was just such a solid defense, man. It was absolutely pitch perfect. You couldn't have done it any better. He made Ragnar, it's one of these kind of times where people who haven't seen this before, like, was RagnaroK just trolling? Like, why does he think this can work? But it can work. We've seen it work plenty of times. It was just the perfect defense from Serral. He is not going to be unrattled here in this series, and now we get to go to a final game, a game 5 to decide it all on altitude. Big map to wrap things up in this quarterfinal in the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice.
Once again, one final time this best of 5. We're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, on top of the red Zerg player from Alpha X. Give him your energy. He is RagnaroK.
In the top right, he is the 12th pool denier. He is your reigning world champion. He is from Basilisk, and he wants to take this all the way. Once again, it is Serral. He wants to lift that up one more time later today. That trophy. He wants it, man. You know he does.
Begrudgingly had to give it back up at the beginning of the day to say, all right, it's going to be a new champion. But maybe it's just going to be the new champion is the same as the old champion. That's what Serral is hoping for. That's what he's been working for. That's what he's been fighting for. But RagnaroK, man, I think at this point, you're not thinking about the championship. You're thinking about just beating the player in front of you. That's where all of your focus is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You just got to go one match at a time, of course. I mean, you talk about after this. The winner of this plays Maru in the semifinals. Whoever wins here is not going to have an easy time. I mean, Maru looked like he was absolutely, as James said, he was awake today. And I don't think he's going to fall asleep between now and his semifinal.
No, I definitely don't think so. You know, it's fun. It's fun and reasonable for RagnaroK to not be thinking too far ahead. But imagine if RagnaroK could pull something like that off. If he's able to beat Serral here, goes on, finds the magic against a player like Maru, that would truly be the God run right there.
Yeah. I mean, you can't deny. If RagnaroK goes all the way and wins this, he's like, you know, you can't be like, oh, you had an easy bracket, because his first match is Serral, then Maru. Absolutely ridiculous section of the bracket, in all honesty. Is this early game, we're back to just kind of being pretty nonchalant about the first 2 minutes. It's hatch gas pool. No one's really taking the edge over the other. The queens and lings start now. And then in the next 30 seconds, we start to see if there will be any diversity on a Baneling Nest or anything. So just going to see that. Obviously, Ling speed first, Baneling Nest perhaps after. As there is the Ling speed on both sides.
Absolutely. Now, another thing to keep an eye out for is we've kind of had a weird best of 5 so far. Serral did go for the Carapace upgrade attacks in 2 of the 4 games we've seen so far. But one of those games, we didn't really get to see what Serral wanted to do because, you know, there was a spine crawler rush instead. Kind of hits a little bit faster than you're going for the +1 Carapace upgrade. So I am curious, altitude is not the most normal of maps. When you're talking about ladder practice and everything, this is a map that a lot of people have vetoed and everything. This is a map that you don't necessarily get to play as many practice games on unless you're really actively trying to get some practice on it.
RagnaroK just going to hit that little edge of a couple of drones once again. Serral just a couple of extra lings here, so little things, and it was little things that I really felt like kicked game number 3 into motion in RagnaroK's favor. So they are the kind of things we might be able to bring back up later, but Serral re-equalizing the drone count. And again, these are minor adjustments early. And we do see RagnaroK actually going to go for a few more lings. Looks like he might be the aggressor, but there's Serral making some lings. So it's just back and forth, that cat and mouse game of who's going to make more.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the Ling versus Ling aggression that we're pretty used to at this point. Does seem like Serral has a few more Lings in production, actually, as he starts up a couple more, and this is going to get a little bit more aggressive on Serral's side, but you can see he still makes some drones behind it. It is just going to be about trying to say, I have a handful more. Let's see if that's enough to break you and actually get additional damage on so I can get ahead in the macro game.
Cool scout from RagnaroK gets into the main. Maybe doesn't see behind, but I don't think he needs to see much more. He's aware that Serral's just playing a bit of Ling Bane. Here we go as we get into this attack. Serral on the offensive, and he's going to get good Baneling connections there. As now we're going to see the Queen going down as well. The Banelings do finish on the left side. RagnaroK didn't detonate, so Serral gets to micro against them. He's making the absolute most of this. Loses his Baneling, but now he's going to be able to get another Queen. And again, injects might be an issue here for RagnaroK. This is very, very reminiscent of game number 1.
It really is, but that Queen does manage to survive thanks to the reinforcing Lings popping out there for RagnaroK. RagnaroK also canceled. Handful of these Banelings. Another Baneling gets canceled. Another Baneling gets canceled there. RagnaroK managing to make a pretty solid hold over here against the light aggression from Serral.
Yeah, that was a little bit confused with the first person view. I knew we were in Serral's picture, but hard to keep track of a little bit at times. As the Roach Roarer now going down to Serral, just insta Roach Roarer, and Carapace going to be RagnaroK's play this time. Big map, so if you want to play Ling Roach, there's just so much preparation time for the opponent defensively.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting, and cheeky Serral sending some Banelings around and morphing them in. Not going to get scouted either, despite RagnaroK actually trying to scout for this. But this is going to be funny. The Evo Chamber is going to be a good bit later here for Serral as well. So even if he was going to go for his own Carapace upgrade, or if he goes for a missile attack upgrade, it is going to be finishing up a lot later than the Carapace upgrade there for RagnaroK. That's going to give RagnaroK a nice window where Serral should have 0 upgrades.
Here come the Banes. It's going to go 2 for 2. I think both are happy with this. They just want to keep nullifying the potential of offense here. Now Serral has a couple of his own Banes coming from the other side. They're not going to get anywhere. RagnaroK saw them coming from a mile away. Really nothing achieved with this one. 2 more Banelings do come forward. He gets 3 drones. That is something. Serral's up 10 workers because RagnaroK has been focused on Roaches, and he's preparing for this Ling Roach attack. Serral will just be purely on Roach production. He needs to stop building drones. He may even need to get a Spine Crawler started as we get defensive here on altitude.
I think that Serral may have identified... No, okay. He's starting up a lair. I was about to say he has the Evo Chamber, but he hasn't actually started anything with it. So I thought maybe he had identified that there was going to be something coming, but starting up the lair, starting up more drones, this is going to be such a dangerous spot. These Lings finally scout out and see what he's going to be up against, and Serral needs non-stop unit production.
He's just coming out of a supply bug. He starts up another drone. Serral just keeps on building workers. I mean, RagnaroK starts a lair. He's not coming across the map with any Roaches. Is RagnaroK feeling as though he's almost figured out and just not going to go? Like, his own lair's on the way. He's still building Roaches, though. I don't know if you're right. I feel like RagnaroK should be hitting right now, and if he was, I'd be terrified for Serral, but he's just not there across the map.
I'm 100% with you. He's up 30 army supply right now and a Carapace upgrade.
Still building Roaches. Did he just cancel? He must have just canceled his lair because it started later, so now he's just going to double down for it. I feel like he's almost just maybe trying to make Serral misread it, but Serral already had a misread. Oh my goodness, this is just getting a little bit crazy as Serral continues to scout out with these Zerglings. He's still behind on army supply, but it's getting to that point where he's going to have a big eco advantage, so he can start to swarm out units if he just doesn't get overwhelmed on the first attack. Here is RagnaroK, Lings, Roaches still yet to begin moving on this large map. Looks like this now might be the time. Serral has Balins ready to counter. Still Lings scouting as he works his way around the center here, and he's on his way to, again, missiles, roach speed, all of these probably not going to come into play, but he just needs units, but that army supply gap is closing in. Here, the Balins forcing RagnaroK to look the other way. 3 more drones, and Serral just needs to hold with a 10 army supply deficit.
Yeah, also knocks out some larvae over there, though, but we see the roaches moving on forward, maybe being able to cancel a couple of these Banelings that are still morphing over here for Serral. Serral fishes a massive swarm of these Banelings. They are not able to find good connections on the roaches, but they do manage to find some connections on his opponent's Banelings. RagnaroK comes swarming on forward, the Lings surrounding the Queens, and RagnaroK doesn't seem like he's going to be overwhelmed.
It's not enough, man. I mean, we've got more roaches on the way from Serral. He just needs to get reinforcements out. Serral's shaking his head, though. I mean, RagnaroK doesn't really have too much love here. Is Serral really going to go out? He says yes, he is. He's up in supply, Serral. Don't leave too soon. No, he's going to go out. He says GG. RagnaroK is going to take it. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of Serral's supply was ahead in workers, but he had a fair amount of roaches, and it really felt like Serral was on his last kind of few roaches that just maybe survived. I don't know, Ravi. That was kind of crazy, no? The entire game? I didn't think RagnaroK had the timing. Wow, I won't lie, I was confused as heck there.
A very, very close game there, and RagnaroK defeats Serral.